Because the brain is responsible for so many parts of our learning, it is important that teachers provide accommodations for students who suffer from traumatic brain injuries. One accommodation a teacher could use for their students is to let them move around when they're doing work for long periods of time. So if the teacher gives instruction and then sends the students off to work independently, a good way to get their minds working and to use their motor skills is to let them get out of their chairs, work, talk to each other, and also just move around the room. They can sit in a different seat or maybe even sprawl out on the floor, just so that all parts of their mind are being activated and they're not just using one or two parts in the lesson. Another accommodation, this one is particularly for students who have sensitivity to auditory things, is to let them choose where they sit and make sure that they're not sitting somewhere where there's a lot of noise. So have them sit away from the door to the hallway or a window. Have them sit probably closer to the front of the room where the main voice that they're hearing is the teacher's, so that they can understand the instruction and focus better. Along with that, students who lose focus easily, another good accommodation for them is to have them take their tests in a separate location from the rest of the class, so that way they're not distracted by other students finishing before them or any noises that can happen in a classroom or even outside of a classroom that are loud enough for students in the classroom to hear. Another accommodation is to break down instruction into a smaller number of steps, because a lot of the symptoms of traumatic brain injuries is that students have a hard time remembering and focusing on lots of things, lots of information coming at them at once. So if the teacher just condenses the lesson a little bit or condenses the activity, so make sure that they're concise with the instructions and the tasks that the students have to do, so that way the students don't become lost in the activity that they're doing. Another accommodation could be to present information in multiple different ways, because we all, with or without a traumatic brain injury, learn in different ways. So some people are visual learners, while other people like to read the instruction, and some people just remember better from hearing it. But this way, you're reaching all of your students in your classroom, and particularly the ones who suffer from traumatic brain injuries, because they could maybe the part of their brain that used to understand written language a lot better now, maybe they understand pictures better. So it's important that that is available to them if it's necessary for them to understand the lesson and what you're teaching. And another accommodation is just to provide outlines for students, so that way when you're giving instruction or when you're presenting a paper that they're going to have to write or something like that, just let them write down the instruction along with you while you're explaining it, so that way they're not relying solely on their memory. Because even with just a minor concussion, sometimes memory is the first thing to go, depending on which part of the brain they got injured. So it's important that they have things written down in front of them, and that way they'll be more successful and they won't be as worried about remembering minor details, because it'll all be written down in a physical form for them.